Fox 66 News with Sean Lafferty, meteorologist Tom Atkins, and Craig Smiley with sports. You are watching Fox 66 News, first at 10.
The search for one of the two New York prison escapees comes to a deadly end. Richard Math is shot to death. Good evening. A misplaced bottle of liquor and a 911 call believed to have been the keys to tracking down at least one of the inmates who escaped Clinton Correctional Facility 3 weeks ago in New York State. The other still on the loose tonight. Fox News correspondent David Lee Miller has our top story at 10.
The intense manhunt for at least one of the convicted killers has come to an end. A tip into local authorities leading police to the scene where a deadly shooting took place.
Law enforcement then responded to that area. They saw Matt. There was a gun battle ensued.
Richard Matt has been killed. The deadly encounter taking place in Malone, New York.
The east side of the lake, a dozen or so armed police with their rifles raised walking through somebody's front lawn.
The town is just 20 miles from the Canadian border where the convicts were believed to have been headed.
There are several leads that are being tracked down as we speak.
Some 1,100 federal and state law enforcement officers are involved in the search.
A tactical team from Customs and Border Protection met up with Matt in the woods, challenged him, and he was shot dead by Border Patrol at that time.
Authorities are taking calculated measures, as it is believed at least one of the men took weapons from hunting cabins in the area.
What we're concerned about them is killing another cop, and if they took a hunting rifle with a scope, taking a sniper shot at a police officer is approaching, which is why the cops are proceeding slowly.
The next step in the investigation, finding out how the inmates were able to pull off the escape and who may have assisted them. At least 2 prison workers face criminal charges. In Malone, New York, David Lee Miller, Fox News.
Let's turn to weather now. Hope you made the most of today. Meteorologist Tom Atkins here now with your Fox First forecast, and you're using words like monsoon.
Yeah, I mean, we play a little bit on words there, Sean, of course. It's not the monsoon, but to some folks, it may feel and look like that. And here's one of the reasons why. Flood watch in effect for all the area tonight into Sunday morning. As you take a look at the radar, there comes the rain. The first batch approaching Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Now, our temperature is pretty similar to last night, 60s to near 70, and that's pretty much what you're going to get as far as highs are concerned for tomorrow. So the rain moves in overnight, comes down heavy with very gusty winds tomorrow, and temperatures stay cool with that deluge only in the 60s for highs. We'll have much more later in the show. Sean?
All right, thank you, Tom. Hundreds gathered to remember fallen soldier and local firefighter Kyle Swain. Jess Dowdrick was at Swain's funeral and has much more tonight.
Present arms!
Just an all-around great guy.
Determined, a go-getter, caring, professional. That's how friends and family described 25-year-old Kyle Swain, fallen soldier, EMT, and local volunteer firefighter, including his partner at Emergicare, Matt Potts.
We made work fun. That's how we are. That's how he was. Loved to have fun.
Potts and Swain spent 12 hours a day together and were good friends outside of work. Potts says it's been rough since he's heard the news, but that Swain died doing what he loved. Local fire officials say that the amount of support from other departments across the state has been astounding, all of them coming together to remember Kyle.
We received 200 emails, over 100 phone calls, and over 30,000 Facebook hits from those fire departments responding back. None of them knew Kyle. None of them, some of them hadn't ever heard of Bell Valley. And out of all the bridges from Pittsburgh to Erie, there were 4 bridges that weren't covered.
Fire officials say Swain was an instrumental part of the Bell Valley Fire Department, always following his motto, never give up.
He'd be the first one to stand up to need volunteers to do something. He'd be right there. He'll be a big loss to the fire department and the emergency services.
Jess Dowdrick, Fox 66 News.
Kyle Swain died last week during training at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. A landmark legal victory in the gay rights movement in a 5-4 vote. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling same-sex couples nationwide do have the right to marry in all 50 U.S. states. The justices said states cannot ban same-sex marriage. The high court case came after several lower courts overturned state bans on same-sex marriage. That Supreme Court ruling met with praise by many LGBT members and supporters in downtown Erie tonight. The story is new at 10. Alex Peterson joins us now in the studio with more on this. Alex.
And what a story it is, Sean, years in the making. We just got back from a Decision Day victory downtown. Couples, advocates, and activists taking to the county courthouse steps proclaiming that love has finally won.
Members and allies of Erie's LGBT community rallied on the county courthouse steps Friday night, hours after a landmark Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide.
Excitement. I mean, cars are driving by, cheering us on, and it just feels good. One of the Supreme Court justices said that the government doesn't bestow dignity, but I would say that this is a day where we feel like we are dignified.
One woman said she predicted this day years ago.
I am so joyous. 11 years ago, I was getting my master's degree, and I was looking for a cause, like an injustice being done. And I said, why can't gays get married? I looked it up, and I saw that it was unconstitutional. I was right. Yes, proven.
Even a local pastor coming out to show his support.
I think it's really important for people of faith to come out in support of LGBT equality. Too often we hear that the faith perspective is opposed to LGBT issues or opposed to marriage equality, and that is simply not true.
While the crowd of supporters watched on, several speakers applauded the Supreme Court decision, but also said the fight is not over.
We need to turn to all the other issues of inequality that still have not been vanquished yet.
Certainly not problems that are exclusively LGBT, but our community is impacted at higher rates than others.
Like everybody else out here.
Now, some of those other issues they were talking about there, they will turn their attention to include transgender health, ending employment non-discrimination based on sexual orientation, and LGBT bullying. A lot of happy folks tonight, Sean.
Alex Peterson reporting tonight. Thank you, Alex. More local reaction to that controversial ruling today. Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Erie, Lawrence Persico, releasing a statement in response to the Supreme Court, which reads in part, quote, I am disappointed in the ruling because it runs counter to the Catholic Church's teaching on marriage, yet in the spirit so earnestly embraced by Pope Francis, it is my hope we can find a new and better way for people on both sides of this divisive issue to dialogue. Erie firefighters respond to a call for an explosion and a fire on Old French Road. It happened around 1:30 this afternoon. Neighbors say they heard an explosion just before fire ripped through a small garage. That fire was fully engulfed when crews arrived on the scene. They knocked it down quickly. A fire investigator was on scene this afternoon, still trying to figure out what caused the explosion. We're told the family was not home when the fire broke out. Neighbors called emergency crews. The federal bankruptcy courts have approved Jim Waters and JAW Hockey Enterprises as the new owner of the Erie Otters, pending approval from the Ontario Hockey League. Leanne Stuck was in federal court today.
Jim Waters was present in the federal bankruptcy court this morning under Judge Agresti. Agresti said in court today that this bankruptcy case has been very smooth. But today, the OHL said they want Waters to pay upwards of $175,000 in legal fees before the completion of the sale.
Substantially in excess of what the normal application fee would be. And it is the league's position that under the Constitution, they're happy to have Mr. Waters and his group as league members and would approve his application, but the economic issues have to be worked out.
Waters and his attorney were not anticipating these fees and are upset the OHL has requested them this late in the game. Judge Agresti has given lawyers and the OHL until July 10th to sort out the legal matters.
I'm not happy about that, but it's, listen, a group of us have worked really hard at this whole project for 3 months, and I'm not prepared to throw it all away that quickly.
Jim Waters says he understands how important the Erie Otters are to the Erie community.
If I was one of the good folks that lived in Erie and we had a good hockey team like we do, I'd be concerned if they were going to move it too. And I think it's, from the word go, I had no intention of moving the team from Erie.
Leanne Stuck, Fox 66 News.
Get on the ground.
Well, it was a big night in national sports for a couple of local hockey players, a couple of Erie Otters. Of course, we're talking about forwards Connor McDavid and Dylan Strome, anxiously awaiting the NHL draft tonight. They weren't the only ones waiting, as a group of fans gathered at Buffalo Wild Wings to watch Connor go first.
Really happy that he's going to make his NHL dream, being one of the best players to ever play the game.
I'm just excited that there's 2 players that were playing for the Otters that are going to go to the top 10. I think that's pretty remarkable.
The former Erie Otters were, not surprisingly, Drafted toward the top, we'll tell you where McDavid and Strome went. Well, McDavid went first. We'll give that one away. We'll tell you where Stromer went later on in the show. A former Steelers player makes a stop in Erie tonight. Pittsburgh's Jerome Bettis, the bus, was at Splash Lagoon signing autographs for local fans. Fans traveled from all over Pennsylvania, even from other states, to meet up with their favorite player in person. Some fans waited in line for more than 5 hours for the bus's autograph, but the excitement never waned.
It's awesome, man. I'm from Maryland. There's always Baltimore fans around, but I'm a diehard Steelers fan, man. It's awesome. He's a great professional. He's one of my favorite Steelers players. It's awesome.
Craig Smiley will have much more on the future Hall of Famer and his appearance in town later on in the hour. A contestant living in the first student bus has been eliminated. Competitor Isued Ferret was late getting back on the bus after a morning break. The judges ruled he was eliminated. Overhearing the news, Ferret says another contestant, Jessica Dar, leaned out the window and offered up her spot on the bus to Ferret. The judges agreed that that was fair, and Jessica was eliminated. Ferret remains a contestant.
I still don't know what to say to her, you know. I gave her the biggest hug ever, you know, like, thank you. And I'm still speechless.
Ferret says given the second chance, he will not mess it up.
Thousands join in worship and faith as they pay homage to the Reverend Clemente Pinckney and 8 others slain inside this church. I'm John Panseri in Charleston, South Carolina. I'll have that story coming up.
We'll be talking with the experts on what you need to know on UV exposure in the summer months.
Plus tonight, a towering achievement for some kids in Italy. It's a brand new world record.